Welcome back to Director's Choice. The Killmonger scene in Wakanda Forever was by far the most unexpected and shocking scene in the entire movie. The movie itself was full of surprises, but when Shuri came face to face with Killmonger in the ancestral plane, several jaws dropped worldwide. No one even expected Killmonger to appear in the movie, let alone be Shuri's guide in the ancestral plane. The main question on everyone's mind is why Killmonger said that Shuri chose him to be her guide. And today I'll be answering that question. In this video, I'll explain exactly why Killmonger appeared during Shuri's visit to the ancestral plane, and how she subconsciously chose for him to be there. Before I go in, I should warn you that this video contains spoilers. As I said earlier, the Killmonger scene caught everyone off guard. We have to give props to Marvel for keeping the secret so well. Michael B. didn't appear in a single one of the trailers or teasers that were released. However, if you rewatch the trailer, you might notice a few odd details that hint at something being kept from the public. For example, when Shuri stands in the throne room, the water around her is on fire. This detail seems inconsequential at first, but when you consider the fact that Wakanda uses vibranium and not fossil fuel, you'll realize how important it is. When the trailer dropped in July, we saw Shuri standing in the throne room within the ancestral plane with no sign of Killmonger. His scene was one of the best kept secrets in Marvel history. They certainly hid it a lot better than the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield appearances in Spider-Man No Way Home. Another detail from the trailer that slipped right under our noses is the texture of the floor Shuri stands on. In the real world, the floor looks like cracked clay, but in the ancestral plane, it's smooth red. This could be where Killmonger stood before he was scrubbed off. In the movie, Namor gives Shuri an herb bracelet that contains the heart-shaped vibranium herb. Shuri manages to synthesize the herb from the bracelet, and she uses it to enter the ancestral plane. She consumes the liquefied herb, hoping to reconnect with her family, but she meets Killmonger instead. Killmonger's presence was shocking enough, but then he adds to it by revealing that Shuri chose him. But how could Shuri have chosen to see Killmonger? She had just lost her mother, so why would she choose Killmonger, the man who almost murdered her brother, to be her guide in the ancestral plane? And what role does choice play when it comes to the ancestral plane? If the ancestral plane relies on the choice of the visitor, is it even real, or is it simply a construct in the visitor's mind? Did Shuri really see Killmonger, or is it all in her head? If so, then what does this say about T'Challa and Killmonger's trip to the ancestral plane? And what does this mean for the other afterlives that have been explored in the larger MCU? These are the questions I plan to answer. When Shuri drinks the heart-shaped herb and transitions to the ancestral plane, the first thing she sees are several flashbacks of her mother. She sees her mother's death and her funeral. At first, it seems like she's going to wake up in the place T'Challa woke up and meet her mother. But instead, she rises from under a sea of water and meets Killmonger. There's water surrounding the throne room, and Shuri wakes up in the same place where her mother died. She rises from the water, and her white dress dries instantly. This dress is the same one from her mother's funeral, the one she refused to burn. Shuri refused to burn her clothes at the campfire. She said that if she sat there and thought about her brother for too long, it wouldn't be the clothes she burns, but the world and everyone in it. If this line seems familiar to you, it's because we heard Killmonger say something similar in the first Black Panther movie. It was Killmonger's plan to burn the world and everyone in it, and now Shuri feels the same way. They both feel the same anger and resentment towards the world, and that's why Killmonger was Shuri's guide in the ancestral plane. She subconsciously chose him because he was the only one who would understand her anger. Shuri's vision of the ancestral plane is also similar to Killmonger's, in the sense that neither of them made it to the green belt that T'Challa talked about in Avengers Civil War. Instead, they were both sent to mirrored versions of places from the real world. In both cases, Killmonger and Shuri stood in the places where their parents died. And outside those places, there's a glowing purple sky that looks like what T'Challa saw when he entered the ancestral plane. Both Killmonger and Shuri are unable to access the peaceful world that T'Challa visited. While T'Challa got to see his father in the beautiful realm, Killmonger was transported to the Oakland apartment where his father died, and Shuri was transported to the throne room where she lost her mother. Both of them were sent to real-world locations that only brought them more pain. While the similarities between Killmonger and Shuri's worlds are obvious, it still does not completely explain why she saw him and not her mother. The answer to this is actually pretty simple. Shuri didn't see her family because she didn't expect to see her family. When Shuri enters the ancestral plane, she's understandably shocked to see Killmonger. She asks him how, to which he responds that how is never important. He tells her that she chose to see him, and Shuri says that's impossible. Then Killmonger asks her why she drank the heart-shaped herb, and Shuri says that she did it to see her family. Killmonger tells her that she never believed the ancestral plane was real, and Shuri admits that he's right. When Killmonger accuses Shuri of not believing, she admits that he's right, and says that she took the heart-shaped herb so that she would be strong. Killmonger tells her that they're more alike than she thinks, but Shuri says that she's nothing like him. They argue back and forth, and then Shuri wakes up. Another key detail is the similarities between Killmonger burning the heart-shaped herb garden and the throne room that Shuri sees in the ancestral plane. Rihanna's lyrics, "Burning in a Hopeless Dream," are also a direct reference to these scenes. When Shuri wakes up, she no longer doubts the existence of the ancestral plane, but that doesn't mean the ancestral plane isn't a construct of the visitor's mind. It's highly likely that everything Shuri saw, and even everything T'Challa saw, was simply their subconscious projecting what they wanted or needed to see. Maybe that's how the ancestral plane works. It taps into your mind and reveals what you need to see the most. In a way, the scene with Shuri standing alone in the throne room is accurate because she is in fact standing alone. The Killmonger she sees is simply a projection of what she needed to see. Her mind wanted to pass a message, and it used Killmonger to do that. So in reality, she's talking to herself. We can't talk about Marvel's Afterlife without mentioning Moon Knight. The series' main character also took a trip to the afterlife. Mark's vision of the afterlife was a psychiatric hospital which shows how the visitor affects what they see when they travel to the afterlife. And according to Toward, the ancestral plane is part of the intersectional planes that exists in the universe. When Mark eventually made it through to the gates, he arrived at Aru, a place that looks just like the Veld T'Challa visited in the ancestral plane. And that wraps up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Why do you think Killmonger was Shuri's guide in the ancestral plane? Let us know in the comments section below. And take a look at this other recent clip by Director's Choice, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon so you never miss an episode.